Alicorned. Alicornication. The baby is an alicorn. The baby is an alicorn. This has never happened ever in the history of Equestria. I've been locked away in my house for days after the crystalling, trying to find some evidence of this being possible, but it just isn't. There's no historical evidence of this, nor is there any genetic evidence either. But then again, since alicorns are both unicorns and pegasi, the genetics would line up. But even then, they should only produce a unicorn since that's what Shining Armor and Cadence have in common. But then again, Twilight was an alicorn before Flurry was born, so could she have gotten it from her? It's so frustrating and just fascinating to think about. My home is a mess. Books are littered everywhere, open, closed, on floors, on tables, and the few remaining on the shelves. I've gone to the library in the Crystal Empire every day, bringing books home I think might have the answers. I take care of Flurry Heart in the interim periods, of course, but as much as I play with her and care for her, I'm always searching for clues. Something, anything to tell me how this would be possible. Alicorns are made up only completing a princess-worthy deed. So, would it then be possible that being the parents of two royals who have accomplished such deeds would automatically give her her wings? It was logical, but when has logic ever applied to something like this? I sit, I sigh, and push my glasses up to the bridge of my muzzle. Okay, so maybe I wasn't gonna figure this out, maybe there were some mysteries that weren't intended to be solved right away, maybe the evidence would come in time, but who am I kidding? How can I leave such an astounding anomaly alone? How could I leave such a tantalizing mystery be? I can't throw away in the towel. Frantically, I begin searching my books for new evidence long into the night. Mornings tend to be busy for Princess Cadence. Every time she would wake up early, kiss her husband onto the cheek, get in the shower, and go change and feed her daughter. After Flurry was cared for in the morning, she made sure that Sunburst was there to help take care of Flurry Heart, and then had breakfast with her husband, who was always too groggy to make conversation. After that, she was sucked into the riptide of her kingdom's needs. Meetings with dignitaries, issues with her kingdom, political questions, issues between castle staff, and, on rare occasions, issues with her own daughter. In this catastrophe of taking care of others, she tended to miss small details rather often as her mind was so busy with bigger issues. She failed to notice the studious looks of Sunburst that he would give her daughter, or the way he seemed to puzzle on things when she was with him. Her mind was often tired as she tried to deal with multiple issues at once, so not noticing smaller issues tended to be a forgivable offense. The morning began as all the others did. She got up, kissed her husband, took a shower, and changed and fed Flurry. But when she went to find Sunburst afterward, she had trouble doing so. A twinge of concern welled up within her. Sunburst was never one for tardiness, but she supposed that every pony had their off days. She decided to give him some time to get there and went back to her room to see her husband.
Shiny, have you seen Sunburst today?
What? He asked sluggishly.
Sunburst, he isn't here yet.
Honey, don't stop worrying, he'll be here, he said with a groan. I'm getting breakfast.
Can you get me something? I want to wait for Sunburst. I don't want Flurry to be alone.
She smiled and thanked him, and sat waiting. About 15 minutes later, her worry began to escalate. She had things to attend to, so she looked in Flurry's nursery and was shocked at what she saw. Flurry had small wires attached to her head, magically enchanted not to be pulled off, and a monitor attached to measure brainwave activity. It wasn't really unlike what Twilight had done when she attempted to investigate Pinkie Pie's pinky sense, or so Twilight had told her, and for a very brief moment she wondered if she was hallucinating this, and all of those months of not getting enough sleep were finally catching up to her. But when she blinked and it didn't disappear, she knew that this was real. And then, she caught sight of Sunburst. Strands of hair curled out of his mane, and his eyes looked the same as Twilight's did when she was obsessing over something. Or, well, going Twily-nanas, as Shining and her in-laws called it. And for a moment, she could only stare, and then, reality completely set in her.
Sunburst, what are you doing with Flurry?
Her voice rang out clear and strong, and shocked Sunburst out of his crazed state. Well, long enough to make him sheepish anyway.
Princess Cadence, I'm sorry that I didn't come to see you this morning, Your Majesty, but I need to test a theory. A theory?
She asked, stunned.
Yes!
His eyes instantly glazed over with that strange, disconnected zeal that seemed to come over him when he got intensely involved in a project.
I'm trying to understand how alicorns are born, and not made. I'm trying to run some tests and see if there's some sort of, an anomaly that could cause this to happen.
Cadence's jaw was opened, and she had to make a conscious effort to close it. Perhaps it was the fact that she was used to this with Twilight that she didn't completely lose her mind. She took in a deep breath and let it out slowly.
Sunburst, there are some things in life that cannot be explained. Sometimes we have to be satisfied with the miracles in front of us without looking further,
she said patiently.
But the science! If we're able to recreate this happening, we could harness the magic with the Alicorns to bring it into magical levels maybe, make them safer, and use it to spread the light and love in Equestria to fortify it. Sunburst, there are some things in this world that shouldn't be understood. If this were to be understood, who is to say that the children wouldn't be taken and their powers turned against Equestria? Some things are miracles for a reason, Sunburst. Some things shouldn't be explained,
she said gently. Sunburst sighed, removing the wires from Flurry.
I suppose you're right, Princess. I apologize if I've upset you.
Cadence smiled.
No harm done, Sunburst. I have a meeting to attend to, but I trust Flurry in your capable hooves. Thank you, Princess. Of course.
She smiled, and she gave Flurry a kiss, and then left the nursery. Meanwhile, Sunburst sighed, holding Flurry.
Well, Flurry, I guess I'll never crack the code behind how you were born as an alicorn. It's not just as simple as two ponies falling in love and having a baby. Unless...
Sunburst's eyes went wide and his glasses seemed to crack.
Unless they were both alicorns. Alicornication.
And with that, Sunburst fainted dead away.